live.
Angie,
And
can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes, hello.
Okay, great. Hi, guys. I'm here.
Nico, have you turned us on and we're live and recording?
You are good to go.
Great. Okay. Welcome, everyone. West Seattle Bridge Community Task Force meeting number 28. Excited to have you all here with us today. I'm Angie Thompson, the facilitator for the meeting. I've got a couple just logistic pieces before I kick it over to our co-chairs. At the community task force meetings, we want to make sure that these are accessible for all the folks who are attending. So we don't have a chat in this setting. We'd love for you to raise your hand if you want to ask a question or make a comment. When you're speaking, if you would identify yourself every time before you ask a question or before you speak, that helps folks know kind of who we're hearing from, and to describe the things that you are referencing on the screen. We have some shortcuts for the screen reader software. Alt-A will mute and unmute. Alt-V will turn your camera on and off. And Alt-Y will allow you to raise and lower your hand. We haven't really shared this with folks, but wanted to let you know, some of you are familiar with this with Zoom, but if you look at the bottom of your screen, there's a little button that says live transcript. So if you turn that on, then you can read the closed captioning. You can, read along with the meeting while we're talking. So just a tool that we haven't used a ton, or we haven't shared with you in the past, but want to make sure you know about that. With that, Heather, I'm going to turn it over to you to kick us off to share some words. Oh, Heather, did we lose Heather all of a sudden? I think we lost Heather all at a moment. Does anyone? Okay. Sarah Zora, do you think that you could step in here for Heather while we're waiting for her to come back on?
Yes, for sure. Hello, everyone. This is Sarah from SDOT. We wanted to take a moment to recognize that we have had 2 fatalities in our kind of impact area of the West Seattle Bridge closure and in the Reconnect West Seattle kind of area of study. So we wanted to just be able to recognize that on February 16th, a man was killed in a vehicle while driving in Georgetown at South Michigan Street and 6th Avenue South. And on March 25th, a 64-year-old woman was killed in a collision while walking in Highland Park. We would hope that you would please join us for a dedicated moment of silence for them and for others that have lost their lives or have been seriously injured in traffic crashes. Together, we affirm our support for safe streets and acknowledge our shared commitment to end serious injuries and fatalities on our streets. Thank you very much for allowing us the time to recognize the lives that have been lost. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Sarah. Hopefully Heather will be back with us. She's having some technical difficulty. Oh, good. Sarah, thank you though for picking that up and
absolutely
letting us know about that. The agenda should look very familiar to everyone. This is our 28th meeting, and this is the 24th or 25th that we've pretty much gone by the same agenda. Hopefully, meeting 29 will be a bit of a celebration and our last meeting, so we'll never hit the big 3-0. But we're going to continue this meeting and next meeting to stay up to date and give what support we can to the folks who are out there working hard to reconnect us to the rest of the city. So the agenda is there. Won't be a surprise, but thank you all for joining us, and thank you in particular for being with us over these last 2 years. It's been a good effort, and it's very much appreciated. Thank you. My co-chair, Paulina, is going to lead us through an opportunity for members of the task force to express their reflections.
Thank you so much, Mayor Nichols, and good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure always to be here in your company. And as we acknowledge that we are on Earth Month, and everything, I just want us to center our discussion too, as we are thinking of people that are working towards a better environment and working towards a better health equity. So this work that we're doing obviously is very related to the work we do as we're trying to bring the best, as listening to your community voices, reflecting for the best decisions into the planning and the execution of the plans for the West Seattle Bridge. So thank you again for being here. So this time we would like to take a moment as community. This is a community task force to hear from you and what are some of the things that you would like to bring up as a community, committee, anything you heard from your stakeholders, neighbors, colleagues. This would be a good time to do so. And maybe we can, Angie can help me look into raising hands or putting it on the chat, or even better, bringing it up yourselves. Do we have anyone?
Deb.
I was really hoping someone else would want to go first, but I want to keep us moving. WHEN is all I'm asked. When? And what would be, as I try and explain about the constrained site and the building of the forms and the pouring of the concrete in the constrained site and building a number of these things, they just want to know when. And I say, well, maybe we'll find out at today's meeting. So if there's any things that you can quantify for those of us who are asked the question of when, would be great. And I know that we'll have some definite updates from SDOT, and I'm looking forward to that. But that's all people are going to talk about is when. So, and I don't know what to say. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Okay, so hopefully we can have that answer today.
Let me
Go ahead, Mayor Nichols.
let me just say, in behalf of SDOT, that they gave us a date and then a concrete strike got in the way. Not their fault, I think. I don't think we were the reason for the strike, but parties have gotten together and the pours are now happening, including the specialized concrete for the tensioning system. But if I were SDOT, I wouldn't put another date out there until I saw the concrete curing. And so if they don't give us a specific date, I will back them on that, because fool me once, they want to be able to deliver what they promise. And until they're seeing that last concrete pour start to cure, they're not gonna, I think they're not gonna put a date out there. And I think that's fine. They're working it as hard as they can.
This is Deb. I completely agree with you, Mr. Mayor. It's just what I hear and passing on to.
Oh, me too.
I know I'm not the only one hearing it. So, and thank you, SDOT, for keeping this meeting on the books today, because it's always great to have the information that you're going to provide to us to be able to pass on to folks who, some of them love the minutia. They just don't want to read about it. They want it fed to them. So.
Absolutely. Okay, great. Do we have any other comments or questions? Looks like, okay, let's go with Annie Guerra.
Hi, this is Ann Higuera. I just have two anecdotes. One is from a friend who works down at Starbucks Center, who has been reporting excruciatingly long commutes to that area. And the other is from a client of ours who actually takes the bus to work downtown, and said her commute is faster than it's ever been with the bridge closed, because there's not that many people on the bus and the bus gets to bypass everything. So she's actually kind of sad that the bridge is going to reopen. So I thought that was kind of funny.
Those are good anecdotes, but thank you, Anne, for bringing it up. Chris?
Yeah, it's just Chris Mackay at the junction. And I just wanted to say, along with Deb Barker and several other people, as some of you may know, we're on this task force to create a reopening of West Seattle. And there's a lot of people on that. We're looking at walk and runs, and people want to drive across and people want to bike across, and we want to have a party on the bridge. And there's a lot of excitement, and I've never been in a position before in my life where we were planning so much for a date that we have no idea. So it's a little challenging, but I thought, we can plan and have it all ready, and then just like a slingshot go once we get that date. So there's a lot of excitement over here, and we're jumping at the bit.
Definitely. I want to be part of that party for sure. Bringing our bridge. Yes. Thank you. What do you think, Co-Chair? We go back. I don't see any other hands. So
Good. Okay. Angie,
thank
I
you,
think
everyone.
you're gonna tee up Heather for the
Yeah.
update. Yeah. Good.
Heather's next on point here for West Seattle Bridge updates, all things that have been going on. So Heather, turning it over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Angie and Mayor Nichols and Paulina. I do appreciate it. And Deb, I too get a lot of when questions. So as soon as there's an answer, I'll be glad to use it myself. So just some updates on what's happening with the West Seattle Bridge. The photograph that that is on the right side of the screen is of some concrete trucks. These ones are from Cadman, pumping concrete down into the bridge through a small hole. And those are holes that we dug so that we could put concrete into those forms. The core drilling for this project is complete. That is where we drilled through the walls east to west and west to east so that we can string that post-tensioning tendon from one end of the bridge to the other. We received our first structural concrete pour for the post-tensioning anchor blocks on the 16th, and we had another one yesterday, so that's exciting. And that is what we're doing to prepare to add the post-tensioning. We're continuing to epoxy inject and carbon fiber wrap the west side of the bridge. Expansion joint replacement is underway. I don't remember if I explained to all of you what those are, but they're you can see them on the deck of the bridge, and they're the places where the concrete panels are not contiguous. It's the thing that goes ba-bump, ba-bump, ba-bump when you drive over a concrete road. It's important for us to keep those clean and tidy, so we are replacing those. We're also working closely with our contractor, Kramer North America, as they secure concrete for the bridge. It is going to be a great day for Adam Dewar, who is the Kramer PM for our project, when I no longer call him and ask him when the next pour is with anxiety in my voice. Because nothing can be simple and straightforward, we have a nesting pair of peregrine falcons on our bridge. That requires coordination with the Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife. Our partners at the Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife have been wonderful, and our consultants as well as our in-house team has been fantastic in getting a falcon management plan together. You didn't think that there was such a thing, but there is. They got it together, got it over to DFW, and we had an approved falcon management plan approved today. So that's less than a week, which is just fantastic. And we think that it is going to allow us to, with some changes to how we're doing the work, we think it's going to allow us to proceed apace. Next slide, please. This is the graphic that we have been showing you all this time. And you remember that it used to have most of this stuff in gray. Now we can see that we have the exterior carbon fiber wrapping and epoxy injections, as well as post-tensioning underway. The interior carbon fiber wrapping and the epoxy crack injections in the central span are complete. And the core drilling for the post-tensioning is also complete. Once we get all of that concrete in place, we'll be able to, and once it cures, we'll be able to tighten up some of that post-tensioning, and we'll be well on our way. So just a note, the Falcons are above Pier 15, which is on the west side of the bridge. If anybody lives on the top of Admiral and wants to get out a pair of, or Pigeon Point, I guess maybe would be a better view to look for those Falcons. Next slide, please. So I know that this is a text heavy slide, which is my absolute most hated thing, but it's really important information, and each and every one of you who's on the committee has a copy of this presentation. So these are some speaking points for you. The key inputs into when the repairs will be complete are concrete availability and completing the concrete pours. Under normal circumstances, getting concrete poured is not a big deal, and it happens pretty quickly, over the course of a week or two. Now, because none of the concrete plants are operating at full strength, it is much harder to get dates for your concrete to be poured. So our next time to get concrete is going to be next week. As soon as we have that last pour, we will be able to predict when we will be able to open the bridge. Some of the other risks that we have include supply chain disruption. This hasn't been a huge problem so far, but I've learned to never say never. Worker shortages, of course, COVID plays a big part in that. Even if you don't have symptoms, you are still supposed to isolate. So that affects how many workers can show up and do work. Weather, of course, is a big factor. Falcons and unseen issues in construction. Anybody who's ever had a kitchen remodel done knows that there sometimes are things that just crop up. We know a lot more about this bridge than the typical person knows about what's behind the drywall in their kitchen. So we feel pretty good about that, but at the same time, it is construction and sometimes things happen. Am I right, Ann Higuera? Okay. In about a month before reopening to traffic, maybe sooner if we can make it happen, we will share the reopening date. Councilmember Herbold, I see your hand. Let me finish this and then we'll get to your question. Following construction completion, as we have discussed before, SDOT has to test and commission the bridge. That work is expected to take 2 weeks. We anticipate that to the extent that there are any opening events that happen before the bridge opens, we will be doing them in that later part of the commissioning period. There are a whole bunch of tasks that go along with reopening, including pouring the concrete to fill those access openings. Do you remember when you saw the picture? There was a hole in the deck of the concrete, so we got to fix those. We have to complete the expansion joint replacement. We have to restore the illumination system on the bridge, also known as street lights. The copper has been pilfered a couple of times. And so we're going to do that right before the bridge opens. We need to replace the overhead signs. We need to replace some concrete panels and seal those joints. We need to replace the center barrier east of 35th Avenue Southwest. We need to install concrete overlay on the Fauntleroy Expressway, as well as reopen all entrances and exits to the bridge. So all of that stuff has to happen. And that will all begin prior to testing. Next, Councilmember Herbold, what you got?
Can you repeat what you said is happening next week?
We're going to have another concrete pour.
And then I thought I heard you say something after that about schedule. No?
No.
I know what the official line is. And like Deb, I keep hoping to hear something other than the official line. I heard you say there's going to be another concrete pour next week. And then I thought I heard you say something about knowing something more about the schedule.
Oh, As soon as we are done with the concrete. So there are 6 total pours that we need. We're going to have the 3rd one next week. As soon as we are done with those pours, and the last ones are not scheduled yet.
Got it.
Because none of the plants are operating at full capacity. And so we can't predict when we are going to get the concrete. Which
next week will be number 3.
Number 3.
So that's
right.
halfway there.
Right. So
And
good for us.
that's 3 in 2 weeks.
So I just really want to caution. I know the anxiety and I understand the frustration. I really caution anybody against projecting out. We don't know when the concrete is going to come. And because we don't know that, we can't back the schedule out for 28 days of
I wasn't going to go there.
Kirchhoff.
I was going to say in 2 weeks, we've got half of the pours done. That's as far as I was going to go.
That is the truth. And
Thank
how
you.
long it will take us to get the remaining pours is still up in the air. And so that's what's preventing us, everyone, Deb, everyone, from being able to know exactly when we are going to be able to open. And I really appreciate the support that Mayor Nichols gave us. It's we've learned this lesson bitterly at SDOT. And so we want to be able to account for the things that we don't know. And one of those things is how long it's going to take us to get the concrete we need.
I've been backing you up too, Heather.
I know. Thank you.
Heather, you've got 2 other hands raised. We've got Deb and then Chris.
Okay, Deb?
Real quick, and it's okay if you don't want to, if there is no answer to this, but I'm still so curious, how far does one pour go? What do you get with one pour? Because I'm trying to, visualize the built forms that the concrete's going in. Does one pour do?
Our first pour was 35 cubic yards.
35 cubic yards.
Mm-hmm. First structural pour. We had a pour before that was
Right,
for
right.
expansion joints.
But the special mix.
We have divided the bridge into 6 sections.
Right.
And we are estimating that we need 1 pour per section.
Perfect.
It's possible that we can get a larger pour that will take care of 2 sections at once.
Great.
But we don't know. We don't know how big any of the pours are going to be, and we don't know what day we're going to get them. Our team is on the phone like they are now close personal friends with all of the dispatchers.
This really helps.
Yeah.
This breakdown and understanding what goes to what. So thank you so much. 6 sections.
You're welcome.
Ish, 1 pour per section ish.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Chris?
Yeah, Chris here. I just a question. Is there any time needed between pours, or can you, if we were so blessed, can you have pours just come back to back, or do we need a space in between?
So is Adam here? No? Okay. This is, we don't like to have cold joints. So, and each of these are discrete little pieces. So, Chris, I don't think you got a chance to go inside the bridge and see, but they're anchor blocks. So they're literally blocks. So yes, if we got concrete back to back to back, we could do more than 1 pour in a day, 100%. And God knows that's what we hope for. But this is not enjoyable for us. Just if anybody thinks we're getting like some kind of sick pleasure out of it, this is not enjoyable. Okay, next slide, please.
But Heather, there's really nothing that can be done to speed up the curing of the concrete.
No. We need to make sure that each of those pours has a solid 28, pun intended, solid 28 days to cure. Each of these blocks, each of the tendons puts 1 million pounds of pressure, and we have so many of all these blocks have to be able to withstand, millions and millions of pounds of pressure. And so we need to make sure that they're fully cured. And I don't care how long it takes. We are simply not going to, we're not going to compromise that safety.
Good. Thank you.
You're very welcome. So once once we know when we're going to open things, and we're all looking forward with bated breath to that, there are some things that we have to do to decommission some of the work that we've done to have that bridge closed. We've done some reconfiguration of our traffic system to accommodate for that. So we're going to have to remove low bridge restrictions and detour signage. We're going to have to restripe some locations. For example, on Delridge north of Andover and SR 99 southbound approaching the High Bridge. These are places where we've given priority access for buses, and we just need to undo that because buses aren't going to be taking the low bridge anymore. And the bus lanes. We need to reconfigure the signals, particularly at Fire Station 36 on near Harbor Island. We're going to need to adjust signal timing in the West Seattle and the Duwamish Valley along the detour routes so that they go back to a pattern that is more normal for our travel when we have our 7-lane bridge open and functioning. So those are things that are going to be happening in the run up to us reopening the bridge. I do want to note that most of the mitigation work that we've done, the radar speed signs, the speed humps in neighborhoods that have been experiencing traffic, all that stuff is going to stay. So most of the work that we've done for mitigation is permanent. There just are a few things that you guys will all be very, very glad we undid because it'll make things move smoother. Next slide, please. So we're so happy to welcome the Low Bridge to our rehabilitation family. We've been doing lots and lots of work on the Low Bridge that is related to the components of the bridge. This work is related to rehabilitating it and strengthening it. So we haven't started any of the work except for the work platforms, which are being constructed off-site. In May is when we're going to lift those into place. We are preparing to replace the lift cylinder. And we are also preparing for a new controls and communication system. The control system that operates the Low Bridge is really vintage. And you all know that in the world of technology, vintage is not fashionable. So as soon as we get those work platforms in place, we'll be doing both interior and exterior carbon fiber wrapping and epoxy crack injection. It's our favorite stuff. We love to do a lot of it. Next slide, please. So we are working with the Coast Guard right now to get some operational deviations for the Low Bridge so we can hang those work platforms in place. They're going to be used just like they're used for the High Bridge to place epoxy injection and carbon fiber wrapping. During those deviations, the Low Bridge will not open for marine vessels. It will remain open for buses and trucks. Next slide, please. This is a fun one. Do you remember the last time we talked about the hole in the loop ramp that goes from the West Seattle? Yeah. So they're fixing that actively right now. So that loop ramp is closed. Don't try to use it because it's not open. And if you take the bus downtown, as I do, you will note that they are using a detour route and it's actually working pretty well, which is a delight. The repair work started Monday, the 18th at 6 a.m. and is expected to take up to 2 weeks. The ramp is closed to all traffic. If you have any questions, Deb, you have a pen? NW Public Affairs at washdot.wa.gov. That's in the PowerPoint presentation if you need it. They think that the work is going to take 2 weeks. If they finish sooner than that, then they will open it up and we will all be very happy. Next slide, please.
I think that's
okay. Any questions?
Pause if there's any other questions. Deb.
Hi, 4 questions. Down to 3 questions. I know I hate asking dates, but does the Falcon have a due date?
Falcon fledglings generally hatch in June.
June. Thank you.
I have to say, I love that you know the answer to that question.
Well, I just love that it takes a broken bridge to learn so many different things. And I never knew that I was going to learn about Falcon due dates.
Me neither.
Yeah, really. Signal timing adjustment. I'm always thinking signal timing adjustment can happen remotely. Someone flicks switches at City Hall, or is it live?
That's mostly true. It's definitely not at City Hall. It's in the Seattle Municipal Tower on the 37th floor. Sorry. We that's a kind of power that we don't want to give to.
I know.
Oh, sorry, Councilmember Herbold and Mayor Nichols. So yes, mostly that takes place remotely. That's an improvement that we made around the Seattle squeeze,
right?
To make sure that at least most of our signals are accessible that way.
That's right.
Remotely. You used to literally have to go down to each and every intersection and change the dial card. And that's in my memory. So that's not all that long ago.
Right.
But yeah, we can do that remotely.
That's perfect.
That's right.
I just wanted to confirm that. Lastly then, and Heather, I did write to Northwest Public Affairs at wa.gov and told them about and sent them a really awesome visual of the Spokane Street to northbound 5 on-ramp conditioned, and I have not heard back. So do we have any status from anybody at SDOT to say is the northbound on-ramp to I-5 still going to look? We just need the holes to be bigger for them to fix it. Okay.
It's a WashDOT facility.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm sorry.
I understand. Thank you. Just had to ask. Appreciate your help.
Yep. You bet.
Representative Cody.
Well, just 2 quick questions. I've been wondering, how is the detour that for the next 2 weeks where you said it was working well, where are they going? How's the buses are they getting on to 99 or just going down?
They are. Oh no, they're not. That's not true. What we do, I have to close my eyes to picture it. We go over the low bridge, and then there's a ramp that takes you up to the Spokane Street viaduct, and then there's an exit to First Avenue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we kind of go up and over.
Okay.
And then we go up First Avenue we go up First Avenue all the way to Dearborn. Thank you, Trev. And I was like, what's that called? To Dearborn. And then we turn on Dearborn and then on to Alaskan Way. And then we proceed up.
Okay. I just was curious. And the other question is, so have we had Falcons on the bridge before, or is it just because there's not the traffic?
We have not had Falcons for the past 2 years. That is as much information as I have to give you authoritatively. Whether they've been there before, I don't know.
Just curious.
There's a nesting box there.
Yeah, there's a box that apparently we all, including DFW, thought was abandoned, but no, not abandoned, turns out. It's a great project. This is a fantastic project where we get to learn all kinds of things that will benefit us for years to come. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions about transportation or about fish and wildlife or anything? It feels like, Heather, you know the answers to all of them.
Well, at least I can pretend. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I think we will turn away from West Seattle Bridge repair and move into Reconnect West Seattle, which means that it is your turn, Sarah Zora.
Okay, thank you, Angie. Hello, everyone. Sarah Zora from Seattle Department of Transportation. I'm going to talk about Reconnect West Seattle. So thank you, Lori, for going to the next slide. Reconnect West Seattle. So an update for just Q1 kind of activities and where we are and a quick status. As you all may know, we have Reconnect West Seattle implementation plan. So from 2020, 2021, and 2022, we had a total of 70 projects to deliver. 11 of those are in construction now. Some are waiting concrete as well. We still have 3 projects in design. Of those 70 projects, remember we have the 3 home zone neighborhood projects as well in South Park, Georgetown, and Highland Park. We're also awaiting some concrete for some of those home zone projects to complete. And we're also in construction on some of the conveyance swale and wheel stop projects that are associated with the home zones as well. We do have a rectangular rapid flashing beacon that's going to be installed at the Dumar Orchard kind of intersection. We had been planning on doing that work during the Seattle Public Schools April vacation last week. We couldn't have all of our utility partners aligned for that time. So we are now going to do that construction after the school season is over. So we won't impact that detour route as much. So we will wait for that now until probably after June 17th when Seattle Public Schools ends. Not all of our utility partners do work on the weekends, so we can't have that weekend availability, which is where we do a lot of our work to try to avoid the detour route impacts. We've also completed a lot of traffic mitigation elements to really things that we hear from community about what's been going on as they're traveling around the area in West Seattle and Duwamish Valley. I think you all may remember that we improved and did some intersection improvements to the Chelan 5-way to ensure that we are not having delays due to the train building activities that's happening. We've been installing new overhead signs as well as new directional signs in some locations to really take care of our assets. Some of those overhead signs were old wooden signs, and we're kind of replacing them to just make sure that they are long-lasting part of our asset management tools. We've also done a lot of paving projects in this first quarter of 2022. You know, after a lot of our winter season and our weather, some of the pavement gets beat up a little bit. So we had 9 paving projects that we completed in this first quarter to really just ensure maintenance of those detour routes as we're in the closure of the High Bridge. If you go to the next slide, Lori, just a quick snapshot of the 2022 Reconnect West Seattle projects. 2 have been complete, so we have received concrete for the sidewalk repair in Georgetown. We have almost all of the other projects that we're expected to deliver in 2022 in construction, a few of them as well waiting for concrete, like the Dallas Avenue South sidewalk repair improvements in the South Park neighborhood. We have been a little bit slower on the best solutions for the 14th Avenue South safety project. We're looking at the whole quarter in South Park from Dallas to Director to try to help increase visibility to all the users of that roadway. Still some high speeds up on 14th Avenue South. So we will be doing some good reflective pavement markers on 14th Avenue South, kind of doing some intersection visibility improvements, some signage updates to really try to encourage better safety for all users in South Park on that major corridor on 14th Avenue South. If you go to the next slide, please, Lori, I just wanted to give you a snapshot of some of the home zone project elements. As you know, we are very focused in the Georgetown, South Park, and Highland Park neighborhoods. These 3 neighborhoods have been receiving the majority of that detour route traffic. So how are we trying to mitigate that and still create some good neighborhood livability? Some of the projects, the pictures you see here, we've done some ADA curb ramps in Georgetown and South Park. We've planted trees in all of the 3 neighborhoods. Done speed humps and speed cushions to really try to slow travelers down that are driving. Some rechannelization and paint and post to make sure that we are visually narrowing roadways and trying to help pedestrians cross the street a little more efficiently, and definitely working with partners such as the Duwamish Valley Youth Corps to help with our clearing and treatments of that 8th Avenue South Trail, which is a really important connection for people walking and biking. So a lot of good different home zone elements. As a reminder, we've also done some home zone data assessments. So if you go to that next slide, Lori, when we first started on what the home zones would look like in the neighborhoods that we were working with, we did a community walks with different community members to really get a good sense of what was going on, their observations, what we're seeing. We also did a huge set of data collection in October of 2020. We did that same data collection in October of 2021 to see what the improvements that we did in the home zones, how they were received or what. So in general, the results The volumes increased on most of the arterial streets, which was kind of anticipated. The detour routes, as COVID restrictions were lifted, a lot more people trying to get out and about, people in their personal vehicles. So we did see increases of volumes on most of the arterial streets that we took data for in these 3 neighborhoods. Where we did do home zone improvements on the residential streets, volumes either stayed the same or even decreased a little bit. So that was a really good portion of what we wanted to see, volumes decreasing where we had speed humps or stay healthy streets or intersection improvements. And then the speeds also decreased where we had home zone improvements. So in the areas where we did have speed humps and neighborhood greenways or safety improvements, we did see speeds decreasing within the home zone improvements. So really good kind of look from data from 2020 to 2021 to really ensure that the things that you all identified to our SDOT team were actually pretty good examples of listening to community and making sure we get stuff done to really help mitigate some of the impacts that you all have been feeling. We do have 2 pilot projects, Stay Healthy Street pilot projects right now in Georgetown and South Park. So we have a survey out to those communities to help us determine if they think those Stay Healthy Streets should become permanent and what kind of designs that would look like. So we're still working with the communities to try to see if those Stay Healthy Streets would be something that the communities would be interested in keeping even after that high bridge reopens. If you go to the next slide, Lori, I'm going to talk a little bit about upcoming. I think you've been hearing a little bit. I have said a few times that some of our Reconnect West Seattle projects are also awaiting concrete. So we do have some projects waiting concrete, some home zones, some Reconnect. Some examples of that are some median islands coming up on 16th Avenue South at Elm Grove and Cloverdale. Also median islands coming up at 12th Thistle Dallas and South Park. We have some sidewalk improvements coming up here in South Park and Highland Park. Some curb ramps that we still need to finalize in Georgetown and Highland Park. And then some pavement repair for some of those 2022 projects that I showed as well. So we have a few projects that we're still waiting for and aligning with our crews about when those can get scheduled. We also have some additional traffic mitigation coming up. We do have a rented radar speed trailer that we have now been starting to use in different locations in West Seattle and Duwamish Valley, where we're hearing complaints of high speeds and observations from community members. We now are trying to use that to help influence posted speed limits and driver behavior throughout the impact area. We will have projects that are scheduled to be starting construction after the high bridge is open. 2 of those are 3 of those are home zone construction projects. And then we also have other projects such as the Highland Holden interim signal that we have. We're going to be moving that into a permanent signal and permanent infrastructure for pedestrians. We have a Vision Zero project on 4th, Olson and Roxbury that will be started after the detour routes are open, because that would have been a huge impact to detour routes, a big major detour route coming in and out of West Seattle. We do have some curb ramps that we also still need to complete, where we have done some paving earlier in this year that we need to go back and finish the triggers of the curb ramp approvals, improvements. And so there will be some construction that you will see once that high bridge reopens as well. If you go to the next slide, I'm going to shift on us and kind of take us to the mobility action plan. Again, this is where our goal is to really increase the number of trips being used by walking or biking or micromobility, our shared scooters and bike share. We have a Flip Your Trip campaign. As of now, these numbers are a little bit older, but we've had over 10,000 trips redeemed of about 3,000 people that have signed up for the Transit Go enrollment. So those people are receiving incentives to get free trips to try using different ways to get around the community. The Flip Your Trip group is going to be working a lot with Bike Works and Peace Peloton and different partners as we approach Bike Everywhere month in May. So really trying to highlight different ways to get around with biking and trying to educate people and bring awareness to that. We also want to make sure everyone realizes that it is April 21st today, and the summer sailing schedule for the water taxi has begun today. And the one difference that you'll see is that the late night, Friday night and Saturday night trips are now going to be available starting tomorrow night. And all the sailings will be met with a shuttle service as well. So that's a really good option for people to take if they're trying to get outside of, especially that north end of West Seattle on that water taxi. So that's really good news if that is one of your preferred routes. And with that, I believe I am here to answer questions or take any comments. If you see things happen out there, let me know. We would love to hear about it. I see Mayor Nichols. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Sarah. On that last point with the water taxi,
Yes.
is the water taxi back to 100% capacity? And what is the mask rule on the water taxi and Metro Transit?
Those are good questions, Mayor Nichols. I believe that I'm not going to speak for King County, but I think that the mask mandate. Do you know
I know
whether
you
has
still have
been-
to, I think you still have to wear masks on Metro Transit. I think they're going to lift it on May 3rd. But that is something that everyone should just pay a visit to Metro KC and verify that for yourself. We know a lot of things.
But we are back to 100% capacity on transit.
Oh yeah,
Yes.
yeah, absolutely. Oh look,
Oh,
here's
Chris
Chris.
is here.
Here's
Oh,
Chris
Chris.
Arkills. Yay!
I thought he might be lurking.
I was lurking all along, yes. The mask mandate has been lifted on both Metro buses and the water taxi and the Sound Transit. I am also happy to report that 90% of the people on those modes of transit are still wearing a mask.
Yeah.
So, good job for everybody, but yes, the mask mandate has been asked. And I'm also happy to report transit ridership has been really picking up. I think, most of us who are riding the bus can attest it's getting busier every time, which I think is a good sign for us all. So
Good. Thank you, Chris.
Colleen.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. So this is Colleen Desmond. I'm a resident at in Highland Park. And so I just had a quick question for Sarah. I'm looking at the slide deck right now, and I think it's slide 21. And you don't have to go to it, but you mentioned that there are projects that are awaiting the concrete, and I may have missed this, but what is the anticipation of when we'll get the concrete for those projects?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Colleen.
Thanks, Sarah.
So it's still questionable for our projects as well. We our concrete crews are getting everything aligned and seeing when we are getting the concrete flows as well. So anywhere between now and the next couple months is really how we're hoping that a lot of these projects get scheduled and resolved and installed. It's not, I also don't have the best information on all the dates of when we are expecting to get the concrete to those projects, but we do hope that they're in the next few months for sure.
But Colleen, let me just add that the kind of concrete that we use for we're using for the West Seattle Bridge is specialized. And so we're not really competing for that concrete with anybody else. We're competing for drivers, obviously. But the kind of concrete that Sarah needs for those projects is like everyday concrete, and everybody needs it. So bigger projects, it doesn't feel like we're being prioritized. It doesn't feel that way to me either. But compared to some of the other things that are waiting for concrete, the larger projects and more visible projects really are getting concrete faster. So trying to get concrete for a curb ramp it takes a lot of charm.
I get it.
So,
I just was curious.
Yeah. And Sarah has a great deal of charm, but she's not the one who's scheduling. So anyway, so it's a really, really difficult environment for every part of the construction industry. And we're all really waiting for things to get back to better. So thanks, Sarah. Good job.
Deb, question from you?
I do have two questions for Sarah. One, Sarah, just the term conveyance swales was on one of the pages, and when I hear the word swale and conveyance, I think of storm drainage. Is that what?
The drainage ditch.
Yeah, drainage ditch. These are projects where typically we don't have typical curb and gutter sidewalks. We might have a asphalt path or concrete kind of walkway. And so this is really taking a lot of the times the planting strip area that might be gravel and kind of maneuvering it into planted area. So landscape, maybe with some trees, depending on what's under, and then doing some wheel stops to just delineate and define this area better. So more plantings to add more greenery in the neighborhoods.
Great. Thank you. My last question then, and I appreciate you having a picture of 16th Avenue Southwest that everyone can see, wow, what a straight shot street that is. And it's great seeing the rapid flashing beacons and all of that. The college had asked about, some representatives of the college had asked about flagging the crossing area between the new rapid ride, which is delayed. Its start is delayed, but between the Delridge corridor and the school, having and painting the actual pavement of 16th Avenue Southwest. And the response that we got was that it cannot be painted because it's a quality, some level of arterial.
Yeah.
And are there any, which was disappointing because it sounded like the college was really into, you know, helping with that. Are there any modifications available to that rule that you're aware of?
Hey, Trevor, you're a traffic engineer.
I was going to call Matt Matt out on this one. I think he's on the call.
Currently, Deb, our policy is that those kind of beautified intersections, you know, painted intersections are really community driven and on non-arterial intersections at this time.
Right. And I was reading code and even talked about making sure that there already was a crosswalk there that could be painted. And I don't think that there is a crosswalk there.
Oh, they do have so that could be something we look at, like a painted crosswalk. We just couldn't do a painted intersection with our policies at this time. But we
so it could be smaller, but painted crosswalks, even though they're on arterials, could be something that the college could latch onto. Great.
Correct, yeah.
Like a rainbow crosswalk? Is that what they're
something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's great. I'll share that with them. Thank you so much.
And we do still plan on taking another round of data on 16th Avenue Southwest, the northern section.
Totally
and
realize
just
that.
making sure. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thanks.
But students are they're in person, and it still is the concern of students and streets, and so thank you very much.
Okay. Thanks, Deb.
Any other questions for Sarah or Trevor or Matt or Heather or any of the? Okay, so let's shift again to talking about traffic data and access updates for the Low Bridge. So this is Sam Marshall. There you are, Sam. Go ahead.
Thank you, Angie. Good afternoon, evening, all. I am Sam Marshall, data analyst with SDOT, and just have a brief update on some both citywide and West Seattle-centric traffic patterns we're seeing, as well as Low Bridge access updates. So first here we have just a look at what we're seeing citywide in terms of volume trends. And we are slowly but surely tracking back toward our pre-COVID baseline. Last month, we were about 20% below our baseline citywide. If we look back a year, we were 31% below, and a year before that, we were 38% below. So we're getting closer there. We don't have April pictured here because we're still in progress there, but a look at daily volumes. Most days we're about 10 to 15% below our baseline. But interestingly, the past few months, Saturdays have seen all the activity. We're about 10 to 15% above our baseline. So a little bit nicer weather, COVID restrictions relaxing, people are getting out and about on the weekends. If we go to the next slide, zooming in on West Seattle, A lot of our locations that we're monitoring are seeing similar trends to what we're seeing citywide. Many of them a little bit below our pre-COVID, pre-closure baseline, with the exception of some of our major detour routes, of course, namely West Marginal Way Southwest at the Duwamish River Trail and Highland Park Way at the intersection with West Marginal. We're often seeing volumes twice or even a little bit higher what we were seeing pre-COVID, pre-closure. And of course, this is, we're also seeing in concert with the uptick in volumes, travel times, especially during PM peak, ticking up as well. So this is really driving home the importance of folks flipping their trips and mitigating. But speaking of trip mitigation, if we go to the next slide, this is a look at our current conditional user base on the Low Bridge corridor, broken down by user group. So currently we have 209 individuals permitted for seeking life-saving medical treatment, 462 on-call medical workers, 231 West Seattle-based restaurant and retail businesses, 64 maritime businesses, and 702 ILWU members. A quick reminder, folks seeking access for June, applications are due by May 15th. But with granting this access to folks, we have asked that they really try and mitigate their trips, stay under their allotted trip caps based on what type of user they are. And the good news is that by and large, folks have been doing a fantastic job at mitigating their trips and staying under their trip cap. And because of that, if we go to the next slide, we have some very good news. If you remember at the end of last year, we were anticipating that with Terminal 5 opening, seeing additional freight on the Low Bridge, that we were really going to have to restrict or potentially even eliminate access for some user groups. But recent analyses using data since T5 opened earlier this year show that we are under our thresholds and able to maintain reliability and resiliency in the corridor. So at this time, we don't foresee rolling back anyone's access. And that even leaves us with a little bit of headroom to accommodate some increased activity as Terminal 5 continues to ramp up. But everyone can maintain their access. And that is all we have, unless there's any questions.
Yay.
Any questions for Sam? Okay, I'm also going to open it up if any questions have occurred to you, because this is kind of it in terms of things to share and to talk through at the meeting today. The next slide you're going to see is like a next steps kind of wrap up. So kind of open field here. If there's any questions that you have or things that you want to bring up, this would be a great time to do it. I'm not seeing hands. Deb, go ahead.
Motorcycles. Still no.
We
Oh,
don't
go ahead, Heather.
anticipate making any additional changes to access for the Low Bridge between now and when we will open the bridge.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments, things to share, entertaining anecdotes?
What to name the birds?
Oh, that's a, yeah. Anne.
Okay, financial question. Are we on budget for this project?
Who are you talking to?
Heather, of course.
Yes, yes, of course we're on budget. In fact, I suspect that we will come in. I'm gonna say it, Greg. I'm gonna say it. I think we're gonna come in under budget. No, I'm gonna say it. I feel actually pretty good about it. We put our. You guys remember that this whole thing happened as kind of a surprise? Yeah, and so we did not go through the normal process of cost development. And so it was a lot of like, we're pretty much sure it's going to be like this. And so I think we were conservative in what we thought it would end up costing us. So thank you, Councilmember Herbold, for being flexible that way.
Heather, the reason why I asked it actually, or what made me think about it, was you talking about people pilfering the copper wire and having to replace some signs. I'm assuming because of vandalism. Is there like, are there some costs like that that are beyond what you thought that they were going to be?
Well, those particular costs are going to be borne by City Light. That's City Light infrastructure. And so replacing that stolen copper wire is part of their business. They're going to be able to save time and money though, because we can attach it to our contract. Pilfer is such a good word, isn't it?
It is. It's a good one. Thank you.
Yeah, but
You're
it
welcome.
doesn't, it's such a brutal thing. They stole it. They just, and several times they just went in and ripped it out.
Well, you know, I just heard a story yesterday that recently the wire was stripped out of a hot building. So they took the wire and it was energized. So
you mean it was live?
Yeah.
Holy.
So there's some real desperation in the community.
Yeah.
So.
Councilmember Herbold.
Thanks so much. On the subject of budget, so the last report I got was that we were around through the end of March 31st, we were at about $64,000 for a total program. I'm sorry, $64 million for a total program budget of about $170 million. So I understand that we're not to the finish line yet, but that's that's about a third of a little bit less than a third. Assuming there's, funds left over, how does SDOT handle that? Are those still dollars that are going to be spent on the peninsula, or are they going to be rolled back in? I know I remember some of these dollars are bond financed funding. So just wondering how that's all going to be handled moving forward.
Well, I imagine that we're going to have to. So just a couple of things. The numbers that you have are correct. Remember that the big bills for the high bridge, as well as like all the bills for the low bridge, haven't come through yet. So while I'm confident that we're going to be under budget, we're not going to be like half of what we thought it was going to cost. So don't worry about that. I mean, if that was a thing you were worried about. And then in terms of the money that is left over, you're correct that most of that are proceeds from REIT-backed bonds. And so I imagine that there are going to be some good faith conversations with the city council about what to do with the rest of those proceeds. I have some ideas. But I imagine we'll want to have some conversations about that. I will say that there are plenty of bridges in this town that could use that, whatever's left over.
Okay.
We'll bring you a proposal.
I'll count on it. Thank you.
Councilmember McDermott, did you want to jump in on that?
I just wanted to suggest to my dear friend, Councilmember Herbold, that perhaps a block party in West Seattle would be an appropriate use of the funds.
It'd be a heck of a block party.
It'd be a hell of a party, and I bet Todd Cardin would give us the deal on the beer, right, Todd?
I bet he would.
I love that about Todd. Deb.
This is not bridge related, but it's still West Seattle related. So I just want to throw that out there and want to let people know that they have a week from today to comment on the draft DEIS for Sound Transit Sound Transit
light rail.
Seattle to Ballard Link Light Rail. Just wanted to put that in people's brain. It's comment deadline, the
So-
28th of this month.
Deb, it's not actually West Seattle to Ballard Light Rail.
It's the extension. Let me,
The two
West
extensions.
Seattle and Ballard link extensions.
Yes.
Sorry, my bad. I
They're
knew the
different
name.
lines.
So comment deadline on the 28th, which is a week from today. I don't know if it's 5 p.m. or midnight, but get your comments in.
Thanks, Deb. Any other comments or things to share? Okay. Next steps. Mayor Nichols.
Thank you, Angie. So we are due to meet in April. No, this is April. So we're due to meet in
June.
In June.
June 9th. So we went to every other month meetings a couple months ago, and we just happened to do it on a month when it was an evening meeting. And so since we've skipped all of the months where it would have been a noon meeting, they've all been evening. When we made the decision to go to half noon and half evening, there were people for whom each worked better. So we will keep it a little bit open, put this one on your calendar, but if we have response in the reflections that you send or what have you, that you would prefer that we do it on the June 8th at noon, we can make that change since we have 2 months to prepare for it. So think about that. If it works better for you to go back to our last meeting being the noon meeting, or if keeping the 4 o'clock on Thursday meeting is better for you, we'll go with kind of the majority will. We're going to talk more about the progress. We'll have more pours. Hopefully we'll be curing successfully. We'll be talking about low-level bridge and our last update on Reconnect West Seattle. So again, thank you all so much for your time and energy. Thank you for being a good advisor to the mayor and to SDOT, and for being a good conduit of information to and from the community. With that, let me turn it over Paulina to wrap up. Or?
You may have lost Paulina.
Okay, well, again, thank you all for your time and energy. We are getting into the home stretch and looking forward to celebrating with everyone. Take care.
All right.
Thank you.
See you soon, folks.